title of my, I don't know if it's a presentation, is Social Justice and Civic Responsibility in the Academic Ghetto. And while I initially kind of thought of the term kind of jokingly, there's really, when you look at the definition of ghetto, a section of the city, especially a thickly populated slum area inhabited predominantly by members of an ethnic or other minority group. Although, as Jonathan pointed out, we're not a minority group by any means. Often a result of, and this is an important part, social or economic restrictions, pressures, or hardships. And that pretty much defines us. So I may make Tim angry with this, but I'll start with some numbers.
All right, go ahead.
But I can translate that into qualitative experiences as well. My experience, I've been at CSU Pueblo for 10 years. Last year, the 2010-2011 academic year, I taught 13 courses total. 9 of them were different. Over 200 students. These are all reading and writing intensive courses. I didn't feel like calculating how many pages I read of just student work because that would probably make me cry. It's in the thousands, I'm sure. One of those courses was a teacher development program in the summer for 4 weeks, the month of June, from 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday. So that's work that one contingent member of faculty has done, and that's not quite average, but about average for what I do every year here, depending on how many openings we have for composition. So it's important work, as many English professors flee from teaching composition. They hear it and go, ah! And some of them justifiably so. They're much more specialized, and their specialty is better used in classes, in other classes besides comp. Although we did have a hire a year or two ago who was hired to teach comp and then negotiated her way out of teaching that before she left. She wasn't adjunct or lecturer, so she could do that, I guess. So yeah, we do a lot. And here are kind of the properties, or actually what those numbers mean. There's a student right now in our grad program who's going to a PhD program right now that I had in composition. There are teachers throughout Colorado Springs and Pueblo that came through my comp classes. Right? You guys probably have students that I've taught. See, I taught you and you and you. Right? So I'm exposed to a lot of students, and the truth is we're exposed to students first. In a fall class, if I'm teaching 8 or 9 o'clock composition class, I'm probably that student's first college teacher. Right? We are their first experience. Right? That's important. So, and what are the properties or what are the conditions like in this academic ghetto? I have kind of a few things. Job security. Everybody kind of laugh right now. We literally exist at the whims of department chairs and deans. My 10 years really mean nothing if our new chair doesn't like me, or if the dean suddenly decides, hey, get rid of Jason, I could be gone. Despite high ratings, everything I've done for the school. So. In addition, there's just really not a priority of support for us. As Jonathan was talking about the raise issue, for years we had smoke blown up our asses. There's no other way to say it, right? Administrator after administrator would say, in the early years when I first started teaching here in 2002, it was, oh, the enrollment's too low. Okay, the enrollment was low. So as that went on, the first year when we broke records with enrollment, when football started, that year we got a lower raise than the previous year. So even the great Joe Garcia couldn't raise our rates. Maybe that's because he was giving himself a 20% raise. It's harder to do for contingent faculty, but there you go. So yeah, enrollment too low, and what was even more frustrating is this answer too. Tell me where to get the money from, without showing us where all the money's going. I definitely had ideas, right? Because they tell us there's no money for raises, and then we open our eyes and look around. And we see four-wheelers that weren't here last year, so people can drive around. And this campus ain't that big. It's not a big campus. If you've been to a bigger school, you know what big campuses look like. Right? And I love this campus, but it's not big. I don't know that we need four-wheelers for people to drive around. Right? Segways. So the campus shares on little segways. They have cop cars. Right? Multiple building renewals. And I know all this stuff comes from different places, but we see there's money and it's just being spent elsewhere. Or as Tim so eloquently put a couple falls ago, there's a whole fleet of deans being hired. And 2 to 3 times what lecturers make.
Oh, way more than
At
that.
least. Yeah, at least. At least. That's generous. So, and that continues to happen. I see their emails. Emails that to me at least appear to do nothing else than justify their position. They've hired me, I should send out an email and put posters on the wall. When the business of this is people in the classroom. Like, what do all those classes mean? It means last semester I came into campus at 6 a.m. My vehicle would be one of the first ones in the parking lot. There was somebody in biology that would beat me sometimes. One car. And I would leave at 4 in the afternoon when my office hours were done. I was putting in 11-hour days on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Not to mention all the other prep time, grading time, and everything else. Right? So, we'd say that's the qualitative bit. So we do all this, and, from upper levels, the support in our own department is wonderful. I have no complaints about how the English department supports us, but from upper levels, it's a joke, considering what we do. And I'm not the only one teaching like this. We frequently have lecturers who teach 4 or 5 courses and are teaching 3 or 4 or 5 preps. Last semester, I taught 6 courses with 5 preps. So, anybody else do that?
I just like to add a little bit what you say, because I had a husband who was an English lecturer.
Yes.
And I see him day in and day out. I see all this incentive structure on him. I see how depressed he could be. And at the same time, I'm in a business school. And so also as economists, I also see something very wrong here. So this is not just a personal experience with a husband like you, doing what you do, and also as a colleague, and then also as a faculty. The incentive structure is completely not there, for the lecturer or the
Well,
job.
as an example, for the lecturers, we all get the same pay.
Right. That's what
regardless.
Right.
If there's a raise, all the lecturers get it. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And I mean, at one time there was a lecturer who was known. I mean, students knew to ask their advisors for her to teach comp. I think Dr. Shively was probably too nice with that one lecture, but I mean,
even you do a good job, even do a right job, then you don't feel you got encouraged and want to do even better. So then you're just getting depressed and depressed and depressed. You are getting 27 grand before. Now this year finally we're getting 30 grand. Okay? And
I almost fainted when I got my letter in the mail that day.
That kind of money is
Like, holy
less than
crap, what
a
happened?
teacher.
I didn't want to say anything for fear it was a mistake. And this is year after year we saw this stuff and we see, and if I had to go over to sign a contract in HR, I would see job postings for various, and again, I don't begrudge any of the administrators their jobs, but when faculty can't be paid, and again, it's always that kind of passive construction. Show me where the money is. I'd love to give you a raise. No, you wouldn't.
That's not
The proof of that is an interim provost comes in and in less than a year gives us a $3,000 a year raise. Russ Meyer didn't want to. Despite all his jolliness and smiling, he didn't want to.
You know, I would put it slightly differently. He didn't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't have to. And what I just want to underscore, which I can bring to this discussion if you can, from the perspective of the people who are on the tenure track, all of you, literally all of you, could be replaced by a lecturer or an adjunct. From an administrative standpoint, Jason is much more profitable than the rest of us. And so... You know,
I'm more likely to get a summer class than you guys because we're cheaper.
His problem is our problem. We are all in this together. There is a graduated scale, I can't think of a better word than oppression, so I'll use it. There's a graduated scale of oppression. The things that we are down about, Jason is further down about the same things. And the people who are adjuncts are further down the same scale. We face the same problems. Your budget discussion is the same thing that those of us who were involved in changing the budget operations a couple of years ago faced all the time. You know, it was this great big moving pie. They said the same things. We want, you know, more better computers in the classroom. We face the same problems. His problems are more acute than ours, but we really are all in this together. And that's just the point I wanted to make.
Yeah. Well, and
where I'm coming from.
And the next thing is, you know, we're quite obviously second-class employees with regards to things like office space, computers. I don't even know what the computers were upstairs where the adjuncts are. I've had the same one for the 10 years that I've been here. I did get a new monitor after the first couple years when they replaced them all with flat screen. Apparently they're replacing all our computers this semester.
I feel shy.
Do you? Okay. So yeah.
Just saying.
So yeah, I mean, so maybe we're in the same boat as the temperature. Probably, yeah. Okay, so we're also frequently required to do things by others who don't have to suffer the consequences of doing it. By that I mean, an example, Sherman Alexie comes in, and it was a great experience for campus, and all comp instructors had to teach this book. We had to make it fit our comp schedule. As if nothing else we were doing in the class was important. We had to deal with the problem of making it fit for students. Because if students see something that's not relevant, and I had students ask me, why are we doing this in a comp class? This book is great and all. I was honest. I said, because people upstairs are making me do this. And there are things we can talk about and connect it to the missions of the class. But that stuff happens. And we have literally no way to fight it. We just have to suck it up and do it. And another issue is contracts. And this is a big one. We do a lot of extra work. The extra classes I teach overload contracts, and I just have to hope that people remember to sign them and push them through. Right? This semester, which is unheard of, I don't know how I would live with this. 6 adjuncts have not been paid yet for this semester. Just a reminder, this is week 7. The end of week 7, we are halfway through the semester, and people have not been paid.
And hold it. Wait.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about? Because if they're university employees, they have to be paid.
That's what I would think.
No. It's like a legal thing.
They haven't been
The
paid any
university
money.
is
They've been
legally obligated to remunerate its employees. We don't live in fucking China, all right? So why are these people not being paid?
That's way above my pay grade.
Like, what the hell is their department chair doing about it? Who the hell is the department chair?
They're doing stuff.
Doing what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Who the hell is the department chair?
Right now it's Cindy Taylor.
What the hell is she doing about this? Her employees are not getting paid? And she's doing nothing?
They had a meeting with the president yesterday, but you should be angry.
What the hell is going on?
They met with the president yesterday,
I think some of the people who aren't being paid are sitting next to me.
Yeah. So 2 of them
Just
are being
let
paid
me
as-
get this straight. Employees in the English department have been working all semester long, not getting paid The English department chair hasn't done a goddamn thing about it, and these folks are still not. Have you been paid today?
There's a little bit of a complication. Some of us were not paid until this month for January. Some of us haven't been paid for February now. So we're in various stages of not getting paid. But as of today, that we do not have a paycheck for our teaching.
I didn't know about this until yesterday when Jennifer Enoch, she teaches in a classroom, and I was coming in as she was leaving, and I said, "Hi, how's it going?" And she said, "Blah." Fort Collins is messing with us, blah blah blah. I haven't gotten paid, and I heard that, and I just stepped back because, as a lecturer, I would stop. I would tell all
You
my
can't
class-
just
I-
stop.
yeah.
But there has to be
There has to be
some way for people to go to get satisfaction, justice.
Well, if they've signed contracts saying they're going to teach,
The
part of that is-
university
part
has
of
a
that is
legal
they're gonna pay,
obligation to
yeah.
pay its employees what they've contracted to pay their employees. And if the employees are not getting paid properly, then administrators who are meeting in the next room, presumably, who are supposed to be competent, if they're not fulfilling their obligations, then they ought to be fired on up the chain of command till you get satisfaction.
I'm
We're
in
moving on
agreement.
to you in just a moment.
You know this, you don't have it administrator, yes.
English faculty
Did
people,
you know this
call the
Paul's
paper.
notice?
That's my suggestion.
So Cindy's
call-
incompetent. Is the dean done anything about this? Dean Roy Sonema?
I'm not going to say anything.
Apparently he's not done anything about this.
Call the chief.
Has the provost done anything about it?
The provost has been working on a solution.
How long?
Since the beginning, I mean,
Of the
problem-
semester.
Part of the problem is that we're kind of in between the cracks of two universities, between Fort Collins and between Pueblo.
Do you have contracts?
No.
They have contracts ready here.
We have,
signed
well,
contracts?
we had a contract, now we have a supersede. So actually, as of today, we were paid for our Pueblo class, but we have not been paid for classes that we are now we're supposed to be contracted for through Fort Collins to teach here.
Call the chief.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this is shame.
An issue that hasn't come up, in which I
It does.
look around and find also very important, I think it's connected with the possible differential salaries for quality behavior. Are you evaluating?
Yes, it depends. Catherine evaluated us. Dr. Sidley did somewhat. I mean, our evaluation is different. We essentially turn in an updated CV and a teaching narrative. And in mine, I typically put the numbers and say, hey, look, this is all the stuff I'm doing for the department, that kind of thing. And usually we get, under Dr. Shidley, we get, the lecturers at least, we get a slip in their mailbox saying, okay, here's the thing, here's your evaluation. We actually met with Catherine, and right now, we're in limbo. I turned in my APR stuff, I haven't heard anything, so I don't know.
Because it's in our department, we don't, I mean, that's a
Math
real
lecturers
problem.
don't even do AP.
Well, and I years ago, I used to even wonder if it made a difference for us. And for a while, Dr. Shidley kept them as a matter of record to say, hey, look, here's the stuff people are doing in case anybody higher up asks, which they don't. I mean, and to be honest, nobody really cares about us as long as we don't mess up. I've told that to other instructors when they're like, well, what about if I do this? I was like, nobody cares if you don't mess up. And that's a horrible thing to say. But that's the ultimate truth. As long as people aren't complaining about their comm classes.
No, I was about to cut in and get the next subject, but you remind me of a question that I have about this. I wonder if you want me to honor me for the last question for you. Do your students know about your contract situation? Do they know the difference between you and Sydney Taylor?
Usually no.
That's what I
Sometimes they ask. I explained at the beginning of the semester. I say, I'm not a professor. Just address me as Jason, that kind of thing. But beyond that, they don't know
Yeah,
unless they.
of course, your class and her class, they get charged the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make more profit on you.
I just want to point out to be careful because I have a friend who taught here 2 years ago. He finished, they all kept promising a contract. He finished the semester, turned in grades, never got a contract, never got paid. Tried to seek payment and never successfully got paid.
Last
Well, and
semester,
this-
Taught the whole.
I was promised a contract for an additional thing I was doing on top of my normal, tenure track. And I worked for about 20 hours and the project fell through and I never got anything for it.
That kind of stuff happens. We had a lecturer last semester teaching an overload, and her contract didn't come through until November. And typically when our contracts are held up with overloads and stuff, it's not HR. They get to us that day. They're held up in the dean's office. I don't even like to say that because I do that, it's a risk. But the only safety I have is they need people to teach comp.
It might be a budget issue, which Tim will be addressing